everybody.
What
How's
a cool
everybody doing tonight?
What a cool intro.
Thank you. So, if you don't know, this is my guest. This is Dom from Toy Domination. Everybody say
Hey,
hi.
thanks for
Be
having me.
nice. And so, now, you haven't been on before, but you said you checked out a couple things. So, we're going to start you off with something that I like to call the Myers-Briggs chart for Geek Nerd Dorks. So, we're going to go over this so you kind of go get your idea. So, generally, we all kind of have a certain thing. So we're going to assume that there's an high IQ and an obsession. That person we would classify as a geek. Person has a high IQ and they're socially awkward. We would call them a dork.
Huh.
If you're obsessed and socially awkward, you're probably a stalker. And if you're all three, you have a high IQ, socially awkward, and obsessed, you're probably a nerd. So where do you think you fall on that spectrum?
Oh, hands down, stalker. Yeah, I've got so many restraining orders on me right now. It's uncanny. After the show, you'll be blocking my accounts right after.
Fantastic.
So, yeah. Yep.
So
I always thought like geeks were more techie kind of, like that's how they nerd out, is they're more geeky, gadgety, and like nerds is more, pop culture or stuff like that too. So I guess the high Q portion there kind of makes sense. And obsession, awesome. Obsession is such a bold word too, but yeah, I guess you and I were talking about this beforehand too. Like as soon as you start talking about my collection and space, like I'm running out of space in my house, like is it an obsession now if I'm worried about my living conditions? So yeah, definitely at that bullseye of the nerd though.
well, I mean, if we have to make that trade, I mean, obviously we're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I will sleep outside, and the rest of the house, my toys, right? They fill it up. So
then you're gonna have a house. No, here's the way that'll work. You'll just have a house just for your toys.
Exactly.
And then you'll have a house that you live in.
Yeah. I'll have the extension from the house is where I live, and the rest of the house is that's perfect.
That's how that will work. That's how we'll do that one. So one of the things that I do is I kind of talk about, you're going to be unique because you're somebody that already does this, but state of play state in this instance is defined as something that you're absorbed in an activity that provides enjoyment and that suspension of a sense of time. So for you, given that definition, when was the last time you played?
Before I answer that question, I'm going to need you to grow the rest of your beard out so you can pull off the Freud. You got the hairstyle, you got the glasses, just grow the full beard and you'll go full Freud here.
Well, in the winter, the beard comes out in the winter.
There you go. Perfect.
In the summer, I gotta shave it off because it's too hot.
Pick up that German accent and you'll be perfect. No, so it's interesting. It's suspension of time because I always, so for my writer background, suspension of disbelief is kind of what is hammered into us. Like you have to have the audience have a suspension of disbelief, like they can just push things away and they're immersed into the moment too. So I always kind of looked at it for suspension of disbelief, like am I immersed in what I am doing enough? And yeah, so definitely like one of my hashtags I use is play with your toys, right? Like absolutely play. And I think you and I were talking about this beforehand, all the different ways that you can actually play with your toys and have that sense of play. And for me, I achieve that in a lot of different areas of my life, not just action figures. Pretty much at work, I would say it's pretty big. If it's time, like I just go vapid, just wander around the hallways there, wasting money. But also with games, like you can do like gaming, like D&D or tactical miniatures games. That's why they put in so much detail and try to make the terrain as realistic as possible, so you can just immerse yourself in that environment and you trick your brain like, I can see this micro world coming to life in front of me, So, but I kind of blend all those things together, and then action figures kind of fall in there too. So,
yeah, I think but for you, because you do this.
Oh, what? No way! Are you kidding me? That's awesome. Oh, bless you.
No, I bought this months ago. I've only gotten a couple chapters in because I keep trying to find time to read it, and I keep getting distracted. I'm easily distracted in my old age, apparently.
Hold on, let me autograph it for you real quick here. To love,
there
you go.
I picked it up after Joe made a mention of it, so I went and searched for it and I found it. I like what I've read so far, but I gotta get to that mindset where I just sit down and read it.
I I liked what I read so far, but not enough to keep going.
I
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just
in
kidding.
life happens, and I love reading. I do. It's one of my favorite things to do. Reading. I read comic books. I'll read you know books, but there's times where it's like hyper focused on it, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean
yeah.
I'll go through 40 books in a month.
Oh wow, dang,
So
nice.
I mean it kind of depends where my brain's at the time. Sometimes it's just if I'm really tired, it's really hard to read because sometimes it'll just make me relax so much that I'll want to sleep
You
instead of
read the
actually
same
concentrating.
paragraph over and over again, not
Yeah,
really retaining anything. Yeah. So,
yeah,
hey, what's
yeah.
up, Bob? Hey, pirates.
So given that you play frequently, because you got your boys, you play with your
Yeah.
boys, you have this. I am going to share this. Give me 1 second. I'm having to look around my desk toys because apparently they decided they wanted to be interfering right now. So this is your wall of cards. Now, I like this idea for putting them up.
Yeah.
Now, I'm assuming these are different from different decks and different.
No, that's all one deck. So that is one of the Marvel masterpieces by the Hildebrand
Okay.
brothers, and it
Ah,
is
yes. Yes, yes, yes.
I couldn't keep these in binders, but I run out of wall space, obviously. But the colors that they did with these are so
Yeah.
vibrant and so just splash tag. Like, look at Chamber there, and like, look at that purple, and like, just everyone has this just gorgeous sunspot on there. And I couldn't keep them hidden, so I took a piece of plywood and I cut it and I spray painted it a neutral color, and then I actually stuck all those on there. So they're ruined. They're worth nothing now, but I get to visually see them and appreciate them whenever I come by. And it's not the full set. But yeah, I wish I could just my wife will let me, but I wish I could just have a whole wall of nothing but the Marvel card series up, and I would just that is it. Like that's
See,
my idea.
that would be cool. I
Yeah,
mean, I got away with 3/4 of a bedroom with toys on the wall, so I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
say much. Now,
Oh
here's
man.
your boys doing. I'm assuming this is like for pre-battle assembly
So
here. This is like an
so
assembly line here.
I'm gonna be honest. This was one of the worst OCD moments of my life with my kids. So normally I'm like, whatever, guys. We have a customizing bench. They can dump stuff dump stuff out. They come up with all these amalgamations and go crazy. Sorry, guys. We're not going to go too depth in there. There's the teaser too. The gag ran over to this show too. But these are all the Mythic Legions, or at least most of the Mythic Legions I had. And I explained to them they're modular and you can take them apart. And they're like, really? You can customize them? Like they know what custom figures are. So they
Mm.
started disassembling them all. And like I was like, no, 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 no. Like, and it was like greens on silvers, on browns, on blacks. And I was like, no, wait, that looks terrible, and like and they were putting like wrong hand, like a big gloved hands into armored guy or armored stuff on here. And I was like, or they would make a really cool figure, but there's three that were just complete disassembled. And I was like, oh my gosh. Normally, again, like with G.I. Joe stuff, I don't care. But for some reason, the Mythic Legions, I was like, I already made that character. So it was
So
it
your
was
Mythic Legions are like your third child.
no, it's weird. It's like
It's
so
got to go a
I
certain way.
I have, yeah, with like, so the Mythic Legions, I don't know anything about their, well, I know about their mythos, but as soon as I make a character, I'm like, and you are now Duncan, and here you go. And he's got his stuff, and that's his axe. And when we play, I know, okay, give that axe to Duncan, even though it's on the other side of the room, right? But this was like shattering all that. And I was like, wait, that's his, and that's his. I was like, I'm not OCD. Like, what is this? But I have GI Joe or 1/18 scale figures that are customized for like decades, right? Like there
Yeah.
is actually, I have one named Duncan too, and Merc, and they are how they are. And if my boys got into those and started disassembling them, I think I'd have a problem with that. But the bins of stuff are like loose figures in the ship. I'm like, dude, they're anything. Go crazy with it. You want a zombie arm and two alien heads on them? Go for it, man. So
Now this is the cards, and
yeah.
they're playing with X-Men. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming those are X-Men cards. I can't tell 100%.
So they're from we do get to talk about cards, guys.
See?
They're from series 2. So I had the X-Men cards, but what I really liked was the Marvel Universe cards, because the whole universe. Like when the
Mhm.
X-Men cards came out, I don't know, I just kind of snubbed my nose at them. I'm like, but it's just the X-Men. Like there's no Spider-Man's or anything else. Despite how crazy mutants were, in the 90s, I was like, but it's it's only one team. Like I can get all of them if I do the universe cards. So what this is, and my boys have been dying to do it again, is we did a stream where we watched before the stream, we watched 3 or 4 episodes of the 90s X-Men, and they loved it. They're actually like, Dad, we want to watch more. I'm like, seriously? So then I took the figures and we took the matching cards. So we had the figure, the card, and we talked about what they saw in the episode. So
So
that
are
was
you
super
gonna
fun.
watch the X-Men 97 with them that comes out in September?
Maybe. I mean, we went back and revisited a few more of the episodes, and we got up to like Tristan loves Blob. I'm like, why do you love that giant? Like, why? What? But he really enjoyed those shows, and he wanted to keep burning through that series. And I had to stop. I was like, hey, they've introduced Mystique, Nightcrawler, Colossus, Blob. We gotta pause. We'll never get through his stream. So,
Yeah.
I I have introduced them to the other X-Men shows that come out too, because there are some good ones, but I'm also not in a huge like nostalgia pull guy. So just because it says 97 on there, I'm kind of like, I guess so. I'd be great if there was a Hickman X-Men animated show. I'm like, we are watching this, like, no questions.
So this is another assembly line, I'm
There you go.
assuming. This is the one you're not having as much twitchiness about as
Do whatever you want, man. All those, as long as they put that stuff away, which never happens, but all those bins on the left there are like threads and wires and stuff, and then the middle ones are weapons, and then the right trays are all like gear and cloth goods and stuff. So they can just pull a bunch of figures, mostly modern. Finn calls the classic ones floppy legs, because when the O-rings start to give out,
yeah.
So he's like, I don't like the floppy leg ones. So they like all the modern and then Joy Toys. So yeah, they can mix and match and do whatever. Like,
see, and you don't have a problem with the Joy Toy, and the Joy Toy are just, I mean, literally almost as expensive as the Mythics.
Oh yeah, no. So I have a huge problem with all that cost.
Oh, okay.
but I love them. So oh man.
So here's one of your little terrain battle miniatures. Looks like knights, right? I'm not sure
This
what
is
this
Battle
is.
Masters. Are you kidding? This is the
Okay.
Milton Bradley. The Games Workshop kind of snuck in after Hero Quest and was like, well, if you like that, maybe you like something like this. So it's a huge, like 6x6 mat. And then they're all in stands and stuff like that. And I have 3 sets of of this thing. And so T and I played a few times, and then we kind of modded it recently to allow like there's way more cavalry on there than you should have. But I was like, no, we'll just fake the points or whatever. So
Yeah.
super fun game.
All right. I think that's all of them. No. Okay. Now, is he riding the back of this?
Yeah, it looks like it, right?
Okay.
So what I did was I pretended he popped out of the hatch and was like shouting like a tank commander, popping up with a Koopa
Gotcha.
and like shouting, and then I had him like pretend to go back inside it. So there was actually a dude inside there. So the twins had 2 Zergs. That's before I modded the heads for Sentinel heads too. So yeah, they were just suspension of disbelief. And there, so we had these prisoners, and the Crimson Twins were like had these villains as prisoners, and they forced them to go fight. So yep.
Now, of course, he would, he doesn't care that his hand gets chopped off because it's going to grow back, right?
That's what I told. Yeah, Finn loves Deadpool because of that. He's like, oh, he's agile and he has a re-healing factor. I'm like, go crazy with him, man.
Yeah. So, and kind of saying that when your kids play, how did you play as a kid? What was the ways that you played as a kid?
Violently. No, I only had He-Man as a kid. I was not to have G.I. Joes because they were perceived as too violent, which is hilarious when you go back and watch that cartoon. You're like, what are you talking about, Mom? And hit the plug in my book. Thanks, Pirates. Appreciate it, dude. And so I had He-Man, and I remember distinctly I had a friend come over, and we set everything up, and I had both the castles, and then I was like, we're gonna go fight. And I remember we were like playing, and he was like, oh, I'm going to do something. And I had He-Man like ram a sword through a guy and kill him. He's like, wait, what did you just do? And I'm like, I killed that bad guy. He was attacking me. He's like, you killing this game? I'm like, yeah, man. So like, it was like game changing him. And he realized like, wait, what about He-Man? I was like, oh yeah, they're I call them He-Man, but it's not really He-Man, And like, then I realized like all those cartoons were super fun, but I was playing my own games. And then my neighbor friends next door had all the G.I. Joes. So I'd go over there and play G.I. Joes. And we played more like Indiana Jones, where because they lost all the guns, so everyone was like punching with those open hands all the time.
Mhm.
So like we climb on tanks, and, like grab the guy, punch him, throw him out. That was like the gimmick I think they always did was like let's have a bunch of vehicles and jump on them like it's some sort of convoy, basically. And that was fun. And then I met another friend in the neighborhood who was a little bit older than me, and his dad was a vet. My dad was too, and he watched a ton of Vietnam movies. So like that dramatically changed how we
Yeah.
started playing because he was like, no, we're gonna go on patrol. And we like play. I was like, this is kind of boring. Our guys are just walking around, like he's, but they had all their kit on and all their stuff. And then someone would get shot, and like he'd have them drop down. I was like, wait, but there's no Vipers. He's like, no, don't worry about it. And he started like making his hands do this. And I swear to God, I saw like rifle flashes from under his bed. And I was like, I'm actually seeing this make believe enemy that's like killing us. I was like, this is super fun. So that's kind of like the three defining moments of my childhood I remember playing was like, it was like a paradigm shift each time. So, or a different theme, I guess you'd say.
So playing, what is that as a kid when you were playing? Obviously, you got immersed into the moment, but what did that make you feel? How did that make you feel as a kid?
The same way it makes me feel now, right? So that imaginative outlet, that imprinting what is going on in your brain somewhere in front of you and allowing yourself to just flow into that world. It's the same exact sensation. And I know that a lot of people try to chase childhood with like, getting a figure, repurchasing a figure, or rewatching a movie or something like that. But for me, I honestly think it's the act of playing. Because like the way I buy toys is bizarre, I guess. But that is that sensation of like I get my hands and my knees on the ground and I dig in. And I'm right now like the different ways that I play and play with my kids. Like it's a really great sensation, and I think that immersion factor is the biggest thing. When I play D&D, it's the same thing. There needs to be music on. There needs to be like an atmosphere. There's people using characters. You see the mini painted, and you're describing physical effects. And that's the same thing you're imagining as you take an action figure and like have them punch someone in the
Mhm.
face. So,
So kind of your childhood toy lines just was, you said it was mostly He-Man, then you got to play with
mhm.
Joes at other people's houses. Did you go back and kind of try to get He-Man, like say
Uh,
classics when it came out, or did you go
so
back and try to get
yeah,
vintage when you started collecting again?
yeah, that's funny. So like no, I went the opposite. I got GI Joes. I started buying with Joe. We were hunting for GI Joes, but it wasn't out of nostalgia. It was that we were still playing with them in high school, right? So we're like, we closeted the hell out of that, but we were still playing in high school. So we were buying up all these collections from our friends who didn't want them. So then, Toys R Us, and we started getting our own money in college. And I remember that the classics came out, and they even did some of like the repackaged originals. It's like those are all garbage. It's like, wait, I still have all mine, and I had my full collection as a kid, and I sold them in 2010. I sold my entire childhood collection except for the castles and my first three figures I got. Those ones I kept, but I sold everything else, and I started buying into the Motu Classics line because I was like, why would I keep these crappy floppy like ones when I have a
Yeah,
better sculpt here, right?
yeah.
And now those classics are on the chopping block too. Like they are what I got from them wasn't the sense of like I thought originally. It was like, oh, I had to get Spike and Webster. I'm like, but I actually don't. I really just want a spider guy. And so when Mythic Legions came out, their spider dude, I'm like, this is good. I don't actually want Webster and all his lore. I want a spider guy. So no,
So it wasn't a nostalgia based thing. It was more of,
it's very play focused. Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Like I want a monster, I want a thing, I want something, I want a character, a new element. So
Yeah, so that
yeah.
kind of answers the question about if you preferred established franchises versus something new. So it's kind of the new shiny that's kind of intriguing.
Yeah, and really what it comes down to though is that I think with when you repackage something that's old, that you're inherently putting those emotions, like what you've tried to be elicit right now is like, how did
Yeah.
you feel? What did you imagine? Like that is what a lot of people, I'm not speaking for everyone though, when they see that toy, they go, oh yeah. Or people who don't toy collect, they come over and I see it in their eyes. They're like, oh yeah, I had this. And no, like they'll start getting into it. And really, I'm like,
Mhm.
please get out of my toy room and fix my air conditioning. It's hot as hell in my house. But you see them like reliving this in front of you, and I'm like, well, that's precious. But a lot of times people will buy, a nostalgia will buy a thing like, yes, it's got the thing, it's got the guy just like I had when I was a kid, because they're trying to repackage that sensation.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't get that same vibe from a thing. And a lot of time when you have that comparison bias, when you're showing like it has to be like I was a kid, you won't really reach those very high expectations, because that's impossible to repackage those feelings that came with that, right? Like you can smell a scent that'll take you back somewhere, but it may not necessarily be the same situation you had then.
Doesn't
So
hold the same emotional
yeah,
resonance.
exactly. There's not the
Yeah.
weight there. So I think that there's danger in buying for nostalgia, but I think there's also a lot of well-adjusted people who understand, like, no, man, I just got the toy that was it's a little bit different, but I don't care. It's the very extreme, snarky ones that are like dogging every detail that I'm like,
Yeah.
please,
It
please
has it
stop it.
has to be
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
you can't be 1 millimeter different than this.
yeah.
It's like,
You're
okay.
poisoning the well. Stop. You know what I mean? So, but I
I
think that's some of that where that resonates from.
Yeah, and I think some of that is they can't control that aspect of it. I mean, they can't control what they're getting. They think by complaining, it's kind of one of those things. Is some people are finding out now that their toy lines are getting canceled because too many people are unhappy with it.
Shocking. So for to answer, going back to the original, it's not that it's a new shiny IP. It's that because there's so many awesome creators out there just pushing stuff out there. It's what do you have and how can I fit it into what I want to build my lore around, right? But also they don't come with any baggage, right? There's no comparison
No.
bias to a
Yeah.
brand new IP. You're just like, you can't compare this to your 80s childhood. It's a brand new
Nope.
Dinosaur Warrior or a Mythic Legions guy or whatever. So, and honestly, Mythic Legions is the reason why I'm ditching all my Motu Classics collection, because I was like, oh, cool, fantasy figures. And they're He-Man, okay, but I'm gonna make them be my own thing, like I did as a kid. Like, you're not He-Man, you're not King Grayskull, you're whatever. And then Mythic Legions came out. I was like, and they can move. They can actually sit down. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
classics, you're out of here, man. So
Well, and it's there's just something different about Mythic Legions and Cosmic Legion sculpts that I don't think anybody else comes close.
right.
The way that the
Oh,
sculpts look.
well. I won't. So I really, really like Mythic Legions, but I will say I need a guy with a broadsword to be able to hold a broadsword two handed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
so there's, and I'm not dogging the Binamaze, they're amazing, blah blah blah. But there are some people who have recently like kind of broken that glass when the pedestal I was holding on. They're like, yeah, but I can't do this and they can't do that. I was like, oh yeah, that's true. So they're not perfect, but they're really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, for me, as far as if we're talking about financial investment to return,
Oh sure, yeah.
yeah, they're a little more balanced than others. So
Then like a Mezco, right? They're like, yeah. So
yeah,
like
don't. I have one Mezco, and I probably won't because he can't hold a gun two-handed.
oh no. See? Oh, there you
It's
go. So
really difficult to hold a gun to. Well, it's not that way. I'm just talking like a rifle.
oh, that's
It
tragic.
doesn't really articulate well enough to get it in that
Oh man.
position. I'm just like, this is frustrating, and I'm afraid I'm going to break it if I keep twisting on
Yeah,
it. So
that's a big Pirate
because I
says that
can't see the joints.
he still makes sound effects when he plays with the figures. God bless you, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. So speaking of play, let's talk a little bit
I could talk
about
play all day. Yes. Anything.
yeah.
Go.
Let's talk a little bit about your game. Your
I have
I assume these were all included in here with the dice to kind of intimate your game that you're developing and you're working with, and
I
we're
have no
finding a
game.
new way to play.
I have no game. I am social and awkward.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is so this ties in the fact that I really like, so I'm a big history military guy, I'm in the military too, so I guess there's part of it, but I really like large scale combat operation stuff, like not squads and like 6 dudes, like that. GI Joe and I kind of parted ways when I realized, like, well, the most you ever field is like 6 dudes, which is makes sense. They're spec ops, so I get it. But I really want to see like full companies, so like hundreds of dudes out there with tanks and all, full spectrum warfare. So I'm like, that's what I really like. So that's hard to achieve in a 1/18th scale, right?
Yeah.
Joe and I did it. That's why I have like 10 his tanks and 5 havocs or whatever like that, because I wanted platoons. So as I kept moving, and like my best friend and my other friends I played with, we kind of like are on the other side of the countries or whatever. I was like, I need another way to be able to do this with other people. So I did minis, and I was like, well, why don't I start incorporating this with action figures? And then my boys, when they argue, I arbitrate with dice, and T loves the dice. He loves the randomness. Like he loves to fail. I'm like, that's a
Mhm.
great lesson to be able to have there. This was funny. I did this up for them because we play a game called Murder Maze, and you just randomly pick at whatever characters. Like you see, there's Baby Yoda there. There's a Mythic Legions, and they go through basically a gauntlet, and you harvest loot, and you fight other people, and you try to come out the other side, and then we reset the maze, and you go back through it again.
So this game is the one that you've been playing with the
Mm-hmm.
guys online.
Yeah.
You can use pretty much any figures, right? I'm assuming.
So that's the idea. So the rule set should be published this year. I actually just signed a contract with an artist, so we're gonna have cards. And the idea is that it's agnostic to any action figure. So no matter
Okay.
what line comes out, you want a big Hulk and Bruiser? Well, you can pick from Marvel. Like you see, we use Marvel Legends here, but you can also pick G.I. Joe. You can pick whatever in there, and the stats kind of roll over, and you can customize your stats and to a limit, because too many choices is agony,
Yeah.
right? So there's a certain amount of selection on your menu there. So, but yeah, it's agnostic to whatever action figure line, and it's agnostic to scale too. But I think I'm going to get pushback from people that are really going to want to measure. And if that it comes down to the people really in the beta test want to measure, then it'll break the scale. You have to conform to a scale, because now you're
Yeah.
measuring distance and range. So,
Interesting. Your little goblin.
yeah. Oh, those are great. Yeah, I love those
Yeah,
dudes.
they are. Goblins and dwarfs get me every time.
Yeah.
That's what I'm finding out. I didn't. I think I got my first mythic 4 or 5 months ago.
Your first one? Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, I was not. It was one of those. I liked it from afar, and then it was.
Yeah.
And then they did the 3 with the unknown one, and then the 2 other guys. They released those, and those are my first mythics. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah, they're really good. Somebody asked about
I'm
cosmic.
trying to do better because I'm having to kind of par down because I'm getting to that space danger area because I have a Robo Skull coming in, I have a Hiss
Oh,
tank
cool.
coming in. I just bought 2 Fortnite boats that I'm going to customize to get them to make a devilfish and a water moccasin.
Well, you've got some space in between there behind you in those chairs. Just park
Yeah,
this tank right there. You're fine. Yeah, no, you're fine
this
right
is
there.
a no fly, no
No,
toys in
no,
for the
right
most
there.
part.
I see the space
Yeah,
underneath the couches.
and
You'd be
she
great.
would kill me. You'd see have you seen me signs come
Yeah.
up on the internet.
Oh,
So
Pirates. Thank you. Pirates said he loves this game. Thanks, man.
see, there you go. You can do a weekly series.
Man, so I DM'd, and I could barely keep up with twice a month because of all the prep you have to do with DMing, right?
Yeah,
And when I played with them online, it was a little more DMing because that's more fun. But the game I really is meant to be played solo. Like you could get this game and you could play at your house by yourself, and no one would judge you, or you could play co-op with somebody, or you could play head to head. So like there's 3 variants in there. So I'm writing scenarios that you could just make up a team and be like, all right, I'm going to play this scenario against an AI, or the enemy opponents on the map too. And I borrowed very heavily from lots of other tabletop like skirmish games, like just blending a bunch of things in there, being like,
yeah.
well, let's do this with action figures.
So, did you continuously collect toys? You kind of mentioned you were still
Mhm.
playing with toys in high
Yep.
school, so you never stopped, really.
Correct. Yep. Never took a pause. So
There was never a gap.
there was a lower period, mostly because I had to start buying my own stuff. So when I
Yeah,
needed to use
well,
my own money,
priorities,
yeah,
right?
so I had all my collections as a kid that I would still drag out. And then you randomly would get like a thing from KB, but like it was barely anything. And really, if my resurgence could be pinned down, it's when I wanted to start getting GI Joes when I was in high school, because I was like, I never had these as a kid. So it started with like going to a friend's house and be like, oh, you have some GI Joes? Like, yeah, I'm just gonna throw them out at garage sale. I'm like, could you give them to me? And so like was 3 here and 2 here, like finding a guy in a drawer, so like,
Yeah.
because we weren't that far separated from it. So that's really when I started spiking and being like, I need to get a job so I can buy toys, like not a car. I need to be able to buy some toys. So, but yeah, never stopped.
Priorities, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So for you, what are your if if we had to give you a basic toy line,
Ooh,
what are Dom's toy lines that he's doing currently?
sure. Okay. Marvel Legends for sure. Like I'm a huge avid comic guy, right? So I love they just released some like the modern Daredevil with the scruff beard, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, Lady Bullseye. Like, oh, I just read those issues with that Daredevil. Like, he's so good in it. And like the new Kid Omega, but I also like the Chad Wave with the classic Sarge Hammers too.
Mhm.
So Marvel Legends, love the Marvel character, but starting to dial down on them. There's just it's getting to a point now where
It's
I'm
too
like,
many.
yeah, I was like, do
It
I need
it
all
feels
these
like it's too many.
Pokemon? Do I need all these Pokemon? I don't know if I do
Yeah.
or not. So, but that's one. And then here's how we bucket the rest. Everything else is bucketed by 6-inch or 7-inch fantasy, and then 4-inch sci-fi. So that is how it breaks down. So like topping those Mythic Legions, right? And then random like Witcher and some other like Armies of Ashmore's coming out. What
Yeah.
did we get? Who are the lizard guys? Got
Savage
Savage
Crucible.
Crucible. So yeah, so that's all. But Mythic Legions is carrying the weight of that. Everything else kind of adds to them. And then for the 1/18 scale, the bulk of my actual toy collection is GI Joes. Like I have just tons of figures and vehicles, and I got some Star Wars in there. But really, when I reach for stuff now, when the boys are like, "Oh, we're gonna make these guys," I'm like, "Well, every single time I pick a Joy Toy figure to be my characters. Like it'll either be the main villain, the main heroes, or like the squad that comes in. It's always Joy Toy. So they are my number one, and that's something modern. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's like Joe and I have had multiple conversations about this. I'm like, did I just like dump all over my childhood or dump all over our collections we've been doing for decades? And I'm like, well, this is nice. Get rid of all this other crap. But yeah, Joy Toy, love it.
Well, I think sometimes we evolve, and our toys kind of evolve with us, or whatever we're doing evolves with us. At least we hope we're evolving, because if we're not,
Right.
we're not growing. So, what are the collection rules? What stays? What goes?
Mm-hmm.
What does Dom even not bother looking at? He does this when he sees it.
Yeah. No, that has recently evolved even more. Like I thought I had pared down when I moved, so I made a chop, but it was very modest chop, like barely anything, right? Like it's like when you lose half a pound, you're like, yes. But now though, I've really started looking. I'm like, I've got a bin. If it's monsters, like old McFarlane monsters, like they're awesome because you can throw them in with 4-inch figures, you
Yeah.
can throw them with 6-inch, you can throw them against Marvel superheroes. So like those are never going away because they're just these adapters for play, right? But the things that don't fill that same function, like Road Pig or this metal, I don't even know what these things are down here. I've got like 3 bins of stuff that I'm like, I'm just kind of like, you guys gotta go. And like I've got these I actually have this right here. I've got this case and it's and like some GI Joe collections like, oh, that's awesome. And it's filled with like the classic figures with their stuff. And I'm just like, why am I holding on to these? Like, who am I trying to impress by holding on to them? So I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't, and they're out. And then recently, I've been, Joe's huge into the classified, like cannot stay away from them. And
Yeah.
I've kind of been like, oh, I'll get 1 or 2. Hey, what's up, James? I got 1 or 2 here. These are really good. They're really good figures. But after I got these Cosmic Legions in hand, I was like, why am I buying all these classified guys here, man? This isn't what I want. Like they're fun, but whenever the boys and I play, the Joes are like these fodder dudes that show up because they're fighting against demons. Like they're like seriously, Dusty came out and the boys were like, he's a guy with a rifle, dead. And I was like, ah man. So I'm like, and we just played a battle. This is really fun if you have kids too, by the way. If you want to play, because everyone's so worried about like video games with kids, play a battle royale game. It's super fun. We just took a blank living room, threw some pillows down, stripped everyone of their guns, and they spawned in pairs because you want to be able to like talk to somebody out there. So we spawned in pairs, and then I took some goons and started them in the middle of the map with pistols guarding other pistols. So the boys had like run over, try to fight guys with pistols, then get weapons. And then each time they would get weapons, I'd introduce guys with rifles. So everyone kept leveling up, in the map. And like I think we played for like 2.5 hours. Like, guys, my knees are killing me. We have to stop, right? And so I introduced the wall. I was like, this is why PUBG does it. I literally took a blue towel and like made a wall. I was like, but that is super, super fun. Anyways, GI Joes were just getting massacred,
See,
man.
and you
So
say that, so I'm gonna do this just to poke the bear a smidge.
oh, here we go. Go ahead.
Now this is my custom.
Oh, really
I, I,
cool.
I want you to see someone stealing my notes. Go back. Now.
Yeah. Nice.
Uh-huh. Now that it my custom's pretty close to that.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. You did a
So,
good job.
and I like my
Yours did a darker wash on it too, so it
yeah,
makes it look less cartoony. So yeah.
and I like my chainsaw gun better. But
Again, these are glorious figures. Like everyone I've gotten, I'm just like, these are great, but when it comes down to it, it's like, what are you cutting? And I'm just like, I'm not buying these for nostalgia. And really, I'm gonna direct more of my money towards the 4-inch scale or like Cosmic Legion. So that's really what it's getting back to is like I thought these would be fun. They're amazing fun. Like I think I may take some of them to my work, and then if some boomer makes fun of me, whatever. So I think I may take them to work, but that's like a desk toy at my job. You know what I mean? But like,
mhm,
yeah, it's not holding that same pull. So
it's not holding a pole. It's interesting.
yeah, I've told everyone but GI Joe Classified, by the way, that I'm breaking up with them. I haven't told them yet, so don't text them, don't social media it. Okay, I want to be
Well,
the one to
I
tell
think they know now.
Classified.
I think they
I
know now.
want to tell them that I'm breaking up with them. Okay.
But I was honestly very impressed with them. I thought that they did fantastic with the
Oh, they're so
reveals,
good. Yeah.
and the figures look good. For me, that was, the highlight for San Diego. Honestly, it was that vamp on top of
Mm-hmm. Cool.
as everything else that they showed. It was just it's impressive. It's
Yeah.
nice when we get something unexpected,
Yeah.
but man, it's making me rethink a lot of my collection because I also get these AWOC.
Oh, those are fun. Yeah. Those are real fun. Yep.
Yeah, and they match. They really go in really well. So I'm having to make some decisions. You know, when I started collecting AWOC, I dumped Action Force, kind of redundant line
Huh.
because I
Okay.
already was now Joe, and then Joe was ramping up
Yeah.
production, so I don't need them anymore.
Uh,
If I don't need them, I'm just gonna sell them.
so, and that's another toy line that's amazing. Right? You're talking Valaverse, right? The actual.
Yeah,
Yeah, really, like just spectacular sculpts, amazing. And you look at those characters that you just showed there. What resonates for a toy for me is the character, right? So like
mm,
the Valaverse figures, like Karak, I was like, have to have that guy. He just oozes with personality. You know this person is not just some like vapid toy or like stereotypical whatever. So
yeah.
but whoa man, Rat James, you're being more picky with Classified. I'm shocked. And hey, what's up,
I know.
treasures? Hey, what's up, man?
But it's probably because he tracked down a Zartan San Diego Comic Con after the fact.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no. So I want to talk about your diorama. Now, this is ways that you play with your toys. So you do customs, you do dioramas,
Trying
you
sweetie.
do everything that that a lot of us do.
Mm.
You kind of do toy photography here and there. You set up the stuff. Yeah, you qualify as toy photography. You don't have to do the fancy stuff like everyone else, right?
It's really bad photography, but it still counts. Okay, I'll take it.
It counts. It counts. No, I do. I'm equally bad, so don't feel bad. I do. I do the equally bad photography. Trust me. I want to show my stuff. That's kind of
Yeah,
what we
no,
do,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
We want to show what we're doing with our stuff. I mean, we have toy channels. So, all right, let me get to the share button. So I had all this stuff, and I have it organized into files, so
Oh, it's
it's
so
easier to get
complicated.
to.
There's so many pictures, and you're like scrolling. It's all vertical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah.
So,
So never shown this yet on any of my stuff. So
so is this foam or
no,
wood?
it's all wood. That is the first, second place that I ever made. And those vertical pillars there are 2x4, so it's super freaking heavy, like really
Oh
heavy,
yeah,
man.
I can
And like
imagine that.
you can see the scale. Those are all 6-inch
Yeah,
figures there. So that
yeah.
door. So it's 1, 2, 3. Yeah, it's 3 stories. Yeah, 3 internal stories, and then the roof can come off.
Yeah, this is the front view of it.
Yeah. So
I was impressed. It's cool stuff. I mean,
thanks. Yeah.
if I had the space, that's what I would do.
It's gotten beaten the hell out of because it's gone through 5 moves now, and like honestly, I think I'm gonna have like a send off for it in this house before we move again. Because I'm in the military, so we move all the time. But it's called the Gray Tower, and the reason why it's gray is because it's kind of neutral, so anyone can take it over and change it to want. So the reason why it's covered with plants is because the green faction took it over, so now it's the Green Tower temporarily. But as soon as someone takes it back over, it inherits the characteristics of whoever takes it over. So like the vampires took it over, and we put like demon statues and skulls and blah blah, and it was the Dark Tower for a while. But it's always at its core the Gray Tower.
So I think a lot of the pictures you sent were like elves and
Mhm.
woodland creatures. So that's assuming the green.
Yeah, that's who won the last time, and the boys love the nature factions. So like, and we can pull in like a lot of animals with it and Pokemon, and like so like that's their go to heroes. So, yep.
It's cool. I mean, it's some of those things that a lot of us would like to get around to doing, but
Yeah, super fun. And then see it's covered up by the bush there, but there's actually a hatch that you can go down inside the top level. The roof comes off
right
too,
here,
because
yeah.
yeah. So and there was a stairwell right there on the side where that Batros guy is, but it like literally just snapped off right before I started taking pictures. But yeah, my 6-year-old.
That's the point of a play set, is it's supposed to get played with,
Yeah,
and
so
eventually it breaks down.
yeah, no, it is. Yeah, this one is like you can see where things are chipping or missed or whatever like that too. But yeah, there's the
Yeah,
middle layer. The doors actually open. I installed a lock on the inside too. So
cool. It's just neat stuff.
and this is our last project I made, where it's modularized. It's a 1/12 scale. Actually, I it's made for 7-inch figures, but we actually have had fun playing with it with 4-inch figures because you can park vehicles in there and they're running around huge, like it's like an industrial size when they're running around. But that was when we set it all up. Right now, that is the murder maze. So the idea is it's 4 levels. You can I originally had them stacked up, but now it's almost like an H with one cutting perpendicular to do and connecting them. So
So I'm assuming it has LED lights that light it up, and
no, it's pretty bare bones right now because my idea is that I want it to be able to assume sci-fi or assume a dungeon. Like I left it very blank and you fill in stuff. So right now what I'm making is terrain that can slide inside, or like features that can slide into it
yeah.
to add to whatever scene we want, right? So like piping and stuff like that too. But we have to be able to have that place that function as science fiction or fantasy. I didn't want to just dedicate it to one theme. So
And I have your murder maze here thing. So give me a
the
second.
murder maze.
The murder maze. I will pull the 4 photos that you sent me for that, and I will a second. And I'll share them. There we go.
Yeah, so it started with I was like, I never got the new Mojo because this disgusting banana peel guy or whatever is just great. Like he's like I'm so happy with this guy. But anyways, like Mojo is an awesome character to be able to run the mirror maze, and he resets it and he's always in the background. And these are I forgot I have yet to show these walls either. So here's another sneak peek. I cut all these walls and you can change them around however you want. They can stack on top of each other with some very thin plywood pieces I have in there that's sheet thin, and you can just make mazes out of it or make full buildings out of it. So this is a murder maze. This was like a mini boss fight with Taskmaster and respawning Vipers. So and you see that little clear case, the bottom there, that's a loot crate. So they had to like fight to get the loot crate. And here it is, just on carpet, rearrange the walls, and they were clearing out a room with Hammerhead, and then Maverick was like a reoccurring lieutenant. Like he would run around. Everybody else uses fodder for their guys though. So.
And then I guess it's the same picture again.
Yeah, same picture, just bigger,
wider angle, so you can see the backside. Yeah.
Yep. You just run around and like, and it's hard to say like actual maze because they can see where they're going. I did try to like hide at one point with like a sheet or something like that to cover up so they wouldn't see what was next. I'm like, this is more work than it's worth, man. Like, let's just run through this thing.
Just get you a sheet of cardboard, throw it on top.
It's hard because like you have to like it has to be sectional, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
Instead I just leave the room blank so they don't know what's in there until they get there. So Arcade.
So
I do have an arcade figure, Bob, but like I hate him. Like I can't take him serious. He's got a freaking bow tie. He looks like a child. So
so does what you kind of talked about your toys, but is there any ones where the lore kind of really affects you choosing that line?
huh. No. Because like Cosmic Legions, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't know anything about the lore until afterwards that I so runaway hit for me, by the way, Cosmic Legions. And same thing with like Armies of Ashmore and Savage Crucible. Like I'm already like falling in love with those toy lines. And there's comics for them. I'm like, yeah, I'll get to those, man. But look at this thing. That's the closest I've ever gotten to like knowing there's lore. Everything else, like the reason why I love Joy Toy so much is like, don't tell me anything about this guy. Like, don't tell me a single thing so I can have it as myself. And like
Yeah.
they're doing great with that concept. So
So what draws you to a figure?
mhm.
What makes you go, has to be mine. It has to be in
Yeah.
my collection. I have to want to play with this.
Yeah.
What is it to Dom? What the toy whisperer? What is the toy whisperer in your ear?
It fills a function. Like sometimes there's things that fill a function, like big suit, bad monster, soldiers, right? But there's this is gonna sound completely polar opposite. Either one, it's a blank slate that I can army build with because I want troopers, right? So that's one thing I was like, oh, that'd make a great soldier or a minion or whatever, right? Like that's a huge factor to be able to get stuff. And that's a draw into toy lines. If I see there's army builders, I'm like, oh, there we go. Yes, toys and tool, yes. But completely opposite to that, I want something that isn't just a character, but like you can see the character, whether it's the
Mhm.
face sculpt or there's some like the new rock and roll is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
Holy crap, that guy is dripping with character. His beard, his look, the tattoos, the hands, like the machine gun, like the shirt, everything from head to toe of that guy is character. I'm like, that
Yeah.
is it, man. Like, and that is what screams to me is like function, army builder, but really just like like Karak is another great example too. Like, man, Bo Yang, a hunter from Joy Toy. I'm like, man, look at that guy, just character.
So what is your current favorite figure that you have?
Mm, that is a hidden secret. I have not revealed that. The answer may surprise you, but it's a modern figure that I've only had for about 3 years. No, wait, I guess about 5 years now because that was no 4 years, only about 4 years. And I got him in my hands and I was like, I really like this figure. I did not think I'd like this figure. And then constantly for a whole year, I would always be like, I get this figure, and my boys would be like, okay, Dad, knock yourself out. I'm gonna play with a ninja. And like he is, if my collection were burning down, I'd be like, no, I've got to get. But the reason why I'm being weird is I'm walking around is because I think I actually want to do like a video of like this is my favorite toy. So, but it's modern and the aspects of it again are it's a blank space, slate that you can imprint onto, but at the same time, there's characteristics of it that are actually unique, like individual to that figure,
Mhm.
as opposed to the other ones. I was like, wow, like that just struck a chord with me. So, um,
So
hey,
are there any times that you've had, I mean, we kind of talked about your classics collection, regrets, buyer's remorse, regrets, where you just, you know what, you bought it and you're just like, yeah, I'm not happy.
oh yeah, man. Hey, thanks, Ryan. Love you, dude. Yes, where is he? Is Monstar? Monstar, are you here? Are you available? Like that was a buyer's remorse. I got that thing, think it'd be a cool big old beastie, and I was like, I feel like someone just glued a bunch of candy blocks together and was like, here's your toy, kid. I'm like, what is this? So
So
I
was
do
it
get
the ramen toys or was it the
no, it was Super 7, yeah.
yeah,
So
well then
I
I
yeah,
have the ramen toy one and it's great. So
I man, that one looks incredible, right? So yeah, I get buyer's remorse. It's less frequent because I'm usually pretty picky about where I'm buying. Every now and then a Marvel Legends will fall flat. I'm not like ew or buyer's remorse, but I'm just like, okay, here it
yeah.
is. I guess here's this guy. Here's Fire Lord, and Joe was like, "That's a great figure." I'm like, I guess so. Um, but I try to really. Really? And so the worst is when you have like a big choice to make, like going in on a line, like Mythic Legion's like, you
Yeah.
gotta buy this now or not. That's the worst. And I
And that's
almost
kind of
didn't
how I
buy.
felt with Armies of Ashmore is like,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
if I'm going to buy it now, but the blanks really kind of fed it even worse
I know.
because for
Yeah.
me as a customizer, when I saw the blanks, it was like, oh,
Yep.
how much is this gonna hurt?
The Savage Crucible was the same way too. Yeah. I was like, oh man. I did get
Yeah,
a,
I
a
didn't like
Roman.
the renders as much.
Oh,
If they
really?
had
Oh,
showed the actual figures in
I see.
the
Yeah.
thing,
Okay.
I think I
Mhm.
would have been more inclined. But just looking at the renders in the Kickstarter itself, they're just
See,
a lot of those sculpts and the rendering stage were just
yeah.
not really
Oh, really?
doing anything
I,
for me. But now that I've seen the figures in three
yeah.
dimensions,
Yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
lot better figures.
Yeah. I so
Yes.
that's another line too. Like you talk about like collectors with completionists. Like I'm absolutely not a completionist. Even in Mythic Legions, I've only bought one all in, but I've spent in certain waves more than an all in because I doubled or tripled certain
Yeah.
figures and skipped others. You know what I mean? So I'm like, but Savage Cruise was the same way. I was like, I completely skipped all the human characters, like yuck, humans.
Yeah.
And then I like doubled down the lizards. I was like, hell yeah, man. So
But it's always interesting when we make those kind of decisions where we're trying to weigh what we really want.
mhm.
For me, it's the only thing that I'm completist on is classified.
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
AWOC is I'm probably starting to be a completist with it, but I
Oh,
probably will
really?
not
Oh,
be.
wow.
I will not be. I've gotten every figure that's out so far. All the wave twos, all the wave ones. I've
Yeah,
ordered wave three. I pre-ordered wave four. So I'm for right now. I'm probably going to get them all. But that being said, it's not going to always be that way
sure.
because that may wane and wax over time. I mean, because there's times where I think right now I think I'm getting close to burnout with
Yeah.
my
Yep.
toys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, it's one of those things when I start feeling that I know that it's time to just kind of start refocusing with whatever I'm doing.
And
So
that's kind of what I'm going through right now too with the refocus and the burnout. I'm like, man, what am I chasing? Like, what am I? Why? Like, or and I don't have buyer's regret for any of the classified, but again, I'm like, this is a great figure. Like, wow, look at this shipwreck, like really cool. But then I go over, I'm like, what? Where am I gonna put this sailor? Like, what? Where am I gonna stick this guy? You know what I mean? So I'm
yeah,
like, well, I don't know, right? So,
it doesn't
um,
fit with your aesthetics
right, yeah, like, yeah,
because of
right, like,
everything else that you got. Yeah,
and my
no, it
boys
makes
are
sense.
like, they only know shipwreck because I make the the voice, and they're just like, okay, dad. I'm like, well, he looks really cool. I was like, yeah, dad, but like, what are we gonna do with him? Like, I don't know. Like, hey, shipwreck though, and they know barbecue. So barbecue's like this ongoing joke. Like my kids, I don't
See,
think
but
they've ever actually.
barbecue could fit in thematically with some of your
Oh,
fantasy lines and some of your other
yes, because
sci-fi
I
lines because of the way he
love
looks.
yes, I love sci-fi engineers. Like, what's a Dead Space is like one of my
Hmm.
absolute like, whoa. So barbecue becomes like an accidental Dead Space guy because he's got that axe. So
Yeah,
most of the time he's like the victim running around just trying to survive, which is not what GI Joes are supposed to be. They're supposed to be heroes, but barbecue's a victim. And I do the barbecue voice. So the boys are like, what are you doing? So like he is just ingrained into the family now. So
yeah,
but they don't know who he is. They have no attachment to him. So you're not late. As long as you showed up here, you're good to go. And then
yeah.
Bob had a space case that had 12 figures at a time. So even as a kid, Bob would rotate out. Oh, that's awesome.
See, and that's an interesting thing is switching out figures. Sometimes we get those figures that kind of they at one moment in our lives they're the greatest thing ever, and
The
then
bee's knees.
another moment it's like, why did I buy you?
Yeah.
I
the
get that a lot. I'm getting that a lot with my collection recently, and I think it's probably because I've been unfocused
yeah.
and not getting the things that really speak to me. Like I had the Masterverse, I got the most current wave, and then I canceled the next wave because I don't want all the figures. And then I
Mhm.
saw the reveals at San Diego, and there's a whole wave that I will be getting none of
Oh, really? Oh,
because
yeah.
I don't I d- I don't need another trap jaw. I don't need another
Right.
sorceress. I
Yes.
don't
Yeah.
need
Yeah. Yeah.
another
Yep.
man at arms.
Time. Yep.
If I really want one representative of what I had as a kid for my
Yeah.
collection. That's kind of how I am with nostalgia toy lines.
Mm.
It's one representative of what I had as a kid, except for Joe. Joe's a little bit different, and I can't honestly say why, because it's the last toys that I gave up as a kid.
Huh.
So GI Joe's always had that special spot in my collection,
Sure, that makes sense then.
and
Yeah.
it was one of the last ones that I sold as an adult. So, and I didn't sell it willingly, mind you. My ex-wife
Oh.
sold it at a garage sale.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, she sold all of my figures, all of my vehicles, and my flag for $75.
And then she became my ex-wife.
Well, yeah, it wasn't too long after that, about 3 years.
Yeah.
Then she became my ex-wife. But that was
I
the first sign. You don't support it. You just sell it behind me.
Yeah, and like Matt Matson here, who sounds like a detective. I don't poop on Super 7. They're good. I actually really enjoy my Muckman and my Mutagen Man, and I've got like a couple other Super 7s randomly tucked away in here too. Again, just monsters. But that Monstar, and then I looked at the one where he actually has the hair and stuff. I was like, oh man, like you get a stinker figure, but then everyone Dogs Falcon, like you get a stinker. It doesn't taint the line for me. There's some Joy toys. I can't remember. There was one Joy toy. I was like, you're the worst Joy toy I have. I don't remember which one it is off the top of my head, but I was just sorting my ship today. I was like, ah man, you are a stinker, But even in comparison, though, it's still pretty good. So
yeah, I mean, I think for me, the only Super 7s I have are my Thundercats, and that's
yeah,
because again, 100% nostalgia line, but I only got the mutants, Mumra, and the main core of Thundercats, and once I get Wily Kid and Wily Cat, I'm done.
you're done. You're not getting Snarf.
I don't want Snarf.
You're not getting. Oh, poor Snarf.
I would rather get a vintage Snarf than the one that Super 7s do. The vintage articulated. Hell, I could even live with the lion, one that came with Lion-O originally.
just the yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. I really want the mutants from those lines to again just be mutant goons. They are really cool. Like that slide is so cool. I don't even care. Like, yes, that guy's an idiot in the show, but like that toy is thick. Like,
yeah, he
thick.
is. He's beefy.
Like, oh yeah, just
and the
cool.
Mumra is really good too. I mean, he would fit in really well with your mystic villains kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's one of those things where it's one of those lines that I'm getting purely out of almost I want to call it spite. Again, top 3 childhood toy line. It's one of those ones that I wanted to get back when I started back collecting in 2022. And it was Joe that started me collecting, and then from Joe it's migrated and then went to Legends. So I wanted to recollect a lot of my X-Men figures that I had in the 90s. Because I let my son open all of my carded 90s
the Toy Biz
X-Men and Marvel figures. I let him go to town on them. He played with them for about a week, and then they went right into a bucket. And it's just like, okay, whatever. It's at that. I mean, I made sure they weren't worth anything before I let him just tear them apart. Right. It's like, yeah, I don't want to give you, that much. But it was interesting because that was kind of how I was collecting at that point when I was in my early 20s, when I had adult money. I wanted to, get those toys that I never could get as a kid. So Star Wars, I got that at. I had I had the fancy Millennium Falcon. I had the X-Wing, had the Y-Wing, had a B-Wing, it was one of those things where I had to get all of that stuff that I couldn't have as a kid. And I had all of those, and I sold my Star Wars collection to kind of fund my Marvel Legends stuff.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing now. Like, hey, you're gonna go to somebody who really wants you, and I'm gonna get some cooler toys that I actually appreciate and aren't sitting in the bin. And me going like, what? I kind of have to have this, don't I? Like, no, you don't. Get rid of that crap. Get something you love. So
yeah, and I parsed down a lot of my Marvel Legends. It's really specifically it's X-Men related, and the occasional, Daredevil.
Yeah.
Daredevil, Moon Knight.
I find the Avengers are less fun to play with. Like whenever the boys and I play, it's mostly X-Men because there's a huge one. But the street level ones, like Daredevil, Moon Knight, Darkhawk, those are always really fun. Elektra, those are always really fun because they're just out there like throwing their fists around. But the Avengers show up and I'm kind of like, I don't know, man. Like Iron Man, but I don't know. They're kind of pseudo godlike. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
we don't really play with them as much. I've noticed, even though the boys watched the last Avengers movie, they're like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I've got all those guys," but every single time we bypass them and go to like the more gritty, realistic. So, or not realistic, but like toned down, vulnerable.
Yeah,
I would say. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, kind of one of the questions that I ask, and it's, you kind of talked about the burnout that you're kind of having with some lines, and I think we all kind of get to that point as collectors where we can just kind of like, you know what, I need to take a minute. This is what I need, or this is what I
Sure.
don't need.
Yeah.
And some people take a minute and they don't come back.
Oh,
Um,
they're called
yeah.
quitters.
So, it's I can understand it. I can understand that sometimes, your feelings change towards something that you built. And for
Well,
some people, I think it's when they have that moment of it's no longer fun.
right, because what's your motivator, right? Like
Yeah,
what's your going in motivator, and like why are you doing something? And like
yeah,
I think that's a big core of what anything you're doing, right? Like why am I playing this sports game? I'm like, because I'm competitive. Why am I doing this job? So I think that if you're not reaching your touchdown, it's easily in sight, then you, like you said, you described unfocused, right? You've gotten mission creep. You just keep expanding. Like I will not get into Marvel or DC McFarlane, no matter how
yeah,
good those figures are. But like every time I go to the store, I'm like, oh, they're so cool. But like I'm like, no, man, like what are you doing? What are you you're gonna get all these guys to stand on a shelf and then what, right? So for me, it's more of like dialing in, like, what are we actually enjoying right now? Like, what am I really getting satisfaction from? And I'm like, man, it's sci-fi 4-inch scale, fantasy 6-inch 7 scale, like anything that fits the Monsters Land stuff. And then Marvel Legends are still really fun for me. Like, but it's reaching that point where I'm like, okay, I don't, it's like it's you have to remind yourself, like, hey, remember, you don't need all of this. You just need to have fun. So I think it's just a matter of understanding your motivation for doing things too. And if it is chasing the nostalgia childhood, what point will you stop? You know what I mean? Some people are like, I only want the toys I had as a kid, or some people are like, I want the toys that I didn't ever have as a kid too, right? I'm like, okay,
yeah.
so um,
Yeah, I think we get trapped in that. So one of the questions that we ask is, and as a therapist, I used to ask my patients, and it's really kind of an opener question, but we call it the magic question.
we're an hour in. It's an opener question. All right, here we go.
It's what you would do for a patient who is struggling with, how do they get to where they want to go.
Okay,
Um, so I kind of modified it and made it for toys.
nice.
So if I was asking a patient, I would be more like, okay, if all of your problems went away tomorrow, what would you do?
Mm,
So for us in toy collecting, the two biggest issues we have are space and money.
yeah,
If space and money weren't an issue, what would you collect and why?
women. So if space and money
Somehow I think
weren't,
your wife would have an exception to that.
well, I could, like she's right here actually. So I would continue to build armies. Like I know people army build or whatever, but like I literally just got enough maggots to make a battery of artillery. So very like very doctrinal, right? Like you
Yeah.
need 3 guns per section for tube, and I have 2 of those. So I've got like, sweet. So I would want to continue to build until I was able to have a outside war ground that is literally out of range of what I would measure out to be actual range, like a thunderclap or missile. I'll be like, okay, we are finally out of range, and these are the 2 camps. And I'm going to play a campaign across this entire space, and that's exactly what I would do. And I would have a blast of that, and I would just die out there from heat, and I'd be happy. I was just like, just bring a bulldozer and cover up me and everything else, and that's my grave. Like I'm fine. So have you had any answers that were close to that? I wonder.
No.
Okay,
Most of them come
yeah.
up with something. I think everybody kind of chooses, there's some people that have said like they do the Mondo, they do the,
Oh, okay. All
hot
right.
toys.
Oh yeah, no, no, no,
Yeah, those
no.
kind of things, and neither one of those really speak to me. I mean,
Yeah.
if it was me, I would definitely probably get vintage Joes. I would probably get
Mm,
modern Joes. I would get all the vehicles, and yeah, I would have it all set up in a big old diorama full of battles and wars and people blowing apart and stuff like that. Especially with those old Joes with the O-rings, I can break you apart and put you
yeah, flat
together pretty
clicks. Yep,
easily.
yep. Nope.
So it's not like it.
I want battalions. So every battalion's got roughly around 800 people. So I want battalions outside. And then every day I'd wake up and be like, okay, what are we doing today, man? We just go out and like have a battle and slowly just to trip down the entire collection until
Mhm.
that's it. Yep.
See, it's fun when we think about that,
Mhm.
like those logistic kind of things where it's dynamic enough.
An acre of land.
Bidder is asking if
I
an
think an
acre of
acre.
land with a
I think an acre.
pond would be big enough for that.
So right now in the AOC game, the adder, which is a very long range missile, it has a range of 50 feet, right? So that's one, and then the jets can move 50 to 80 feet as well. So like that's like the max range right now. So give it an acre of land, yeah, okay, I think it'll work. It's a good start.
So, do you ever have that feeling where you just want to cut it down to just this line, one line?
Huh. Yeah. I thought you were gonna say the feeling that you're being watched. I'm like, yes, right now, actually. Um,
Here we are.
cut
So,
down to one line. No, I would say line because line is very brand specific. So that would mean I would have to give up like the combining that I've been doing over the years with like modern and marauder and joy toy,
mhm,
or like our mythic legions with monsters. Like I couldn't do that. If you were to say one storyline, like one, like Dom, you hone in your play, then I would say it would be the 4-inch sci-fi. And I think what will bring that about later on is when my boys are too cool for me. And then the Mythic Legions and that scale become shelf collections or like just strictly tabletop like RPG type figures. But the
mhm,
4-inch will always and forever be like, dude, like everyone's like, oh, it's so great you play with your kids. I'm like, I had kids, so I had someone to play with me. Do you understand? Like, this is not like,
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah, it's the opposite effect. You're like, I was already playing. Now I just needed somebody to come play with
right,
me.
right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. So, is there any time that you see yourself not collecting?
No. When I'm
No.
poor, yeah. So I mean, like in my nightmares, so I'm like, oh crap, how will I feed my family? Right. Like that's
You went awfully dark with that.
yeah, well, I mean that's that's it. So
I was like, well, he just went
yeah.
really
Yeah,
dark
it's
with
if
that.
it's
If
if it's
I'm
bread or
poor and
GI
I need to feed
Joes,
my
so
family. Yeah. Well, if there
already
was
built it.
ever a time that, if I find it funny because I'm sure there's somebody out there that's eating ramen buying their toys because
Yeah.
toys were life for them. I mean, it's
Yeah, yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not gonna I'm not gonna condemn them for that. But that's pretty much all of my questions.
No, cool.
Now,
Did I win? Did I pass?
did you pass? I don't know. But we do have a couple big ones. So hang on, let me find my dealie. So, all right, there it is.
Can you tell us about passing your collection to your kids?
So what did you pick up this week?
Well, hold on. So I went on Adam's highly articulated, and I thought the question was passing your collection on to your kids like you were dead. And I was like, wow, this is gonna be dark as hell. Okay, like here we go. And I didn't have that conversation with the boys. I like alluded around. I was like, hey, if you could pick anything
Yeah,
from my
I
collection,
remember
like
that question.
yeah,
It was
they're like, what do you
hilarious.
mean, Dad? And I'm like, no, 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 just and then I got to Adam's show and I reread the title. I was like, oh, like so it's like, man, thank God. And then Pirates would have an all-out space fleet battle. That would be hey, Pirates. You see the guy who made the Echo, the base where it's actually like all the ATSTs out there. He like filled a whole room. It's an entire room. He actually dug a trench into it, and it's a huge. He made one guest room like a diorama. It's incredible.
Yeah.
What did I get this week? So I got just in time for our live stream the other day, and I don't care. I'm going to keep sharing them. I got these amazing cosmic legions, and they are
Wow.
so good. Like I really liked my Alithia wave from from
Mythic.
Mythic Legions, right? Really fun. But these are, I got the gold skull. T loved putting the gold skull. So we played a battle royale with the Cosmic Legion. So every time
Yeah.
this guy got fried, he's like, boop, gold skull on him. They are really good. Like they're someone said, what's that doggone game? Not Final Faction. I can't remember. Anyways, I'm gonna move on. But they elicit so many different sci-fi tropes into them. They're fantastic. And I I can't like I already like these white guys, these troopers. I'm gonna get like 4 more of them. They're so great. If these were 4-inch scale, I
Yeah.
would have probably broken my bank. Like honestly, like they're really cool. So we haven't mixed these figures with the 4-inch figures yet, but you can, especially I didn't bring them down, especially when it comes to those huge ones, like those monsters.
Right.
I'm just like, yeah, absolutely, dude.
I think I got the big orange forearm Rygar.
Yes, really, he's really
I
cool.
got her.
She's
And then I
fun.
got the other female, and then I got I am drawing a blank on my 4th one. I only got 4 out of wave 1. But I'm thinking about going back and getting the black suited.
Oh yes, they're really fun.
Yeah, I saw it and I was like,
now they're simple. They are just black with just a couple touches of red on there, right? But the sleekness and the fact that there's a gloss to it and they're slim lined, like they have like a Black Widow Spider-esque kind of sense to them, even though that's not what they're listening. They're really fun. They're really cool. I use these, so I got 2 of these ones, and I got 2 of those science. You asked about lore earlier, and these are science officers. I was like, this is a scientist, but really, I think they're guards that are supposed to be for the scientists. Like, oh, okay, I got you now. But that's
maybe
not what they are.
The guards that are experimenting on the inmates.
Yeah, and again, I was curious and I was having trouble falling asleep, so I went and read like the lore, like let me actually read what these guys are. I was like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Brain dumped it all. You know who these guys really I get a bad glare from that. There we go. Who these really remind me of, and I showed my boys this, is the Sarkadar from Dune, the Prison of the Emperor's Blades. Like, oh my god, I think that's why I love these so much. So really cool.
Yeah, I've got those. They're actually, I got the shipping notice today for mine coming in, so I'm looking forward to them coming in so I can play with them. Now, my week I got most of the new wave of Joe. I happened to just go by Target and I found him.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
And I got I got a Crimson.
You not already have him?
This is the Tiger Force version.
So Tiger Force, right? Yes.
I gotta have my teams because the way my display is gonna be set up is I'm gonna have them all in their teams. So
So there is some history with Tiger Force with World War II, right? It's not to the extreme, and same with the shark mouths on the planes. Like there is some harkening back to that. But even as a kid, I was like, who are these yellow pajama wearing goofballs? Like, what have you done? Like, but people love that line. They love it. They love it. I'm just like, man, I guess I was just corrupt. Just something wrong with me as a kid. I don't know.
Well, it came out after I was stopped collecting as a kid. So, it's for me, it's more of I can just see them as like a squad kind of thing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's what everyone sees, the sub teams. Yeah.
Yep. So, and I got this from
Oh, very cool.
But he's going to be a custom because I already have him.
Do you? Oh,
because
man.
I got the head pack and I have that nice red head that doesn't have a body.
That's right.
So I will be painting him up to go with that red head.
God bless you for color matching. I am terrible at it. So I got that yellow guy. I didn't get his brother, the blue one, because I was like, blue. The yellow was so bold and unique. There's not a lot of yellow figures. So I'm like, wow, I love him.
I got a head pack and I gotta do something with those heads. And I'm like,
that's cool.
Easy. It's an easy one for me. I know. Just get the paint and go to town and go from there.
Yeah.
But it's weird because I've really been hesitant to try to do a custom with the Mythic Legion because for me I usually do customs with clearance figs.
Oh yeah. That's an investment.
So I don't feel like I'm, if I mess it up, and it's a little bit out, but I'm not going to be, $49.99 out or
that's a good price still though for that though. That's nice.
But 70 or $37.99 when I buy them directly from the Horseman for the pre-order. It's just I couldn't wrap my head around that.
Yeah.
So my last question One of the things that I tried to do when I started this channel is I wanted to kind of get people to kind of reconnect with that inner child and find some joy and realize that being playful actually lengthens our lives, which is interesting. There's actually studies
Yeah.
lengthens our lives. It actually shows less declination in brain activity and functioning as we age. So there's lots of health benefits that are to being a playful person, but also to choose that kind of joy that we had as a kid. Because all of us as kids, when we were playing, it was unadulterated joy. We were having fun. We didn't care. We were
Right.
having that thing. And as adults, we forget that. We get so wrapped up in the day to day that we kind of miss that. Now you are lucky that you get that connection all the time because you never stop playing. So, but what did you find joy in today?
Today. What did I do today? What was today? First of all, today was Sunday. Oh, gosh, I got to actually have a couple pauses. So I enjoyed editing our next. This is a great segue for a plug, by the way. I got joined editing our Cobra Convergence video. So I saw your interview with Hooded Cobra
Yeah.
7088. That's really fun. Great dude. Joe and I are doing a what's the date? The 23rd? I guess I can say it now. We're doing a G.I. Joe Among Us video. So it's an imposter among the Cobra forces, and it's very Venture Brothers, which is my favorite show ever, mixed with like a Twisted Toy Fair, and that's the theme. And like it goes through. It's like 8 minutes or whatever, and it kind of goes to like you're playing an Among Us game. Super fun. So that was really funny because we stayed up late and did a bunch of stupid voice acting for it. So I'm constantly hearing it as I'm editing or like my like practicing getting into it too. Like my birthday pie, Joe, is this the voice? Like constantly try to like practice my Cobra Commander. So like, which is a mix of the Monarch and Cobra Commander purposefully. So like that was fun. The boys and I played a fun game too. Oh yes, Venture Brothers. Yes, buddy. Yes, Pirates. Yes, they have a movie as their closeout for their series too. The boys and I played a Pokemon game where they do this great terrain setup where they take a red blanket and that's the lava, and they'll put some gray pillows as the rocks, and they put the fire guys there. They took a blue blanket for some water. I don't know where they get this from, and then they put the place that's in between there as like
No, it's
bridges.
not clear at
Yeah,
all where they're getting
I
that
don't
from.
know.
No.
And T is a huge into like bugs and rocks, so he actually took like shells and stuff, and he put those interspersed throughout too. And I was like, well, and he has so many Pokemon. I was like, what are you gonna do? You put them all out there. We can't like go catch them. It's too dense. He's like, I just want to have a big battle, Dad. So we came up with the reason why they're having a battle. And so some of the Pokemon joined one side, and they're like, we just slowly are fighting through there. And I was like, this is super. And then Finn loves Bakugan. So I'm like, yeah, man, the Bakugan are like a weird ally that jumped in. So that was really fun to be able to do that too. And then also, selfishly, I got some me time because I'm an introvert and I had to recharge. So I was able to go and just be like, just like clear away. And I think it's hard. This kind of comes back to the beginning of your question here too. And I know a few people have asked me directly about this is that intentionality, right? Like how do you be intentional when you're not intentional with something, collecting or spending time, it becomes diluted down, right? It's like, you let that soda sit too long with the ice cubes, you take a sip, you're like, oh my God, it's like barely Dr. Pepper flavored water. So intentionality rather than quantity, I think is huge. And like when I play with my kids, I'm very intentionally focused, like, my phone's over to the side, and when I answer anything, like, asking them engaging questions like, well, how do you think they feel? Like, where do you think it's going? What's the temperature like? And then when I have me time, it's also very intentionally focused. And I think that's the hardest though when you're alone, because there's no other voice to interrupt you, right? It's like you got the work voice coming up, or you got the like, you should do the yard, right? Or the self-doubt when you're like painting something, you're like, where to start, like, well, don't do that, like that you don't have time for that, or like, no, you're not going to do a good job, or like all these little tiny voices. So it is really great when you can like look at something just like, I'm just gonna not worry about what time it is or what I have to do tomorrow and just intentionally focus on it. And like when I was done, I only got like 30 minutes by myself, and I stood up and I was like, I barely made a dent in this, but that was really cool and that was really fun. Or like I got to imagine, because that's the other thing too, like people will tinker with something and you get those juices flowing in there, and you like tinker with it. So I was tinkering my ship, and I was like, wouldn't it be neat if? And that's really fun to be able to have those moments, that quiet, imaginative space. So those are the things that I guess I'm lucky. And then we played video games later today. That was really fun too. So
Oh well, I mean that's one of those things that we kind of have to. We also
See you,
forget is to
James.
give me time.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You got to have a little bit of that. But anything else you want to plug?
Man, I had a really inappropriate comment there. I was like, yeah, I want to know.
No,
So, yeah,
it's fine. Go ahead. Go
we're
ahead.
doing we're
No.
doing another live show this coming Thursday. Wentzilla's gonna co-host and Zilla Customs. He was a young dude who popped on when I had all these creators on there. Here's where I had tools if you didn't recognize him, but a really talented guy. He's got a Discord set up, so really imaginative. I'm like, hey man, I want you to just have an open space where you're. I also had an coming.
Yeah, Allison.
Perfect. Yeah.
Allison is always helpful. She substitutes for Silver K when Silver K is not running around.
So we're gonna have this guy come on, and he does amazing custom characters,
Yeah.
and like the pictures he does in there. Again, you talk about like immersion. Like every time, I'm like, dude, I know what this character is going through right now. I know about this character. So really fun to be able to have in there. The 27th, we're publishing that Cobra Convergence video. It is taking a mountain of time to edit, from like the voice acting to the photo shooting to like, and then Joe did these amazing animations. I should have sent you one where actually, have you played Among Us? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so like when you eject the person to space,
Yeah.
we actually have like Crocmaster getting ejected into space. It goes that was not the imposter. Like he did such a great job in it. So I'm really excited, and like it's my humor. So like I've been laughing at my own script like an egomaniac, but
Well,
I
it's
think
kind of
it's
like
funny.
that video with you and Ken that was really good. It was like you and him were like,
Did that already
interrupting each
publish?
other.
Did that come
Yeah.
out? Oh,
No,
I totally. Oh, okay, all
it's
right.
it's in his Patreon, so
Oh,
I
okay,
think
sneak
it
peek. All
comes
right,
out.
got it. Yeah,
But yeah, no, I was giggling the whole time because I'm like, yeah,
yeah.
that's what they would do.
He let me. So he sent me a script. He let me cut loose on it, and I was well. Actually, he was like, "Do you want to read this?" I'm like, "If I read that, I will sound like a robot because I don't talk like that." And then
Yeah.
I was like, "Well, I'll rewrite my own way." Then I was like, "Hey, how wild can I go with this?" He's like, "As long as you cover the bullets." I'm like, "All right, man." So I like, roll up the sleeves. I'm like, "Here we go."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. It's
um,
hilarious. No, I don't think it's published yet. I think it's comes
okay.
out later this week.
Well, so
But
there's that coming out too, and then I've got some vacation coming up. So we're I live in a slope that goes up into a greenway that's on a hill. So the boys and I were scoping out our next battle we're gonna have, like an actual like the war game battle, and I've started digging fighting positions into the hill, so it's gonna be a hill fight. So that'll be super fun.
cool. Cool. All right. Well, with that, the only thing I had book.
Man, thank you for that shameless plug. Thank you.
Shameless plug.
I've got to write the other one. I've got to get off my ass.
Yeah, you gotta focus. You gotta
Yeah,
focus a little bit.
yeah.
It's been a while since this one came out. But I appreciate you coming on, and
Absolutely. Thanks
we
for having me
have a
here.
little outro. And everybody, good night.